Picture this, you're an Allied bomber pilot in the autumn of 1944. You're cruising at 25,000 feet over Germany in your B-17, surrounded by the comforting drone of 4 radial engines and the tight formation of your squadron. You've survived flak. You've survived Luftwaffe fighters. You know the drill. Then something streaks past your cockpit at a speed that shouldn't be possible. No propeller. No engine noise you recognize. Just a blur moving at over 500 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour faster than anything you've ever seen in the sky. Before you can process what just happened, your wingman explodes. Then another. Then another. Welcome to the future of air combat. Welcome to the Messerschmitt Me 262 Schwalbe. The jet fighter that arrived too late to save the Third Reich but early enough to terrify the Allies. The aircraft that could have changed the entire trajectory of World War II, if only Hitler hadn't made one catastrophically stupid decision. This is the story of the world's first operational jet fighter. A story of brilliant engineering, idiotic leadership, and a weapon that arrived just months too late to matter. The secret beginning. April 19, 1939. 4 months before Germany invades Poland. At the Heinkel Aircraft Works in Rostock, a small twin-engine aircraft rolls onto the runway. It looks strange, sleek, almost futuristic, with engines mounted under the wings that have no propellers. The test pilot, Erich Warsitz, advances the throttles. Not throttles connected to piston engines and propellers, but throttles controlling something entirely new, turbojet engines. The aircraft accelerates and lifts into the sky. The world's first jet-powered aircraft has just flown. And almost nobody knows about it. Hitler's government immediately classifies the entire program. This technology is too important, too revolutionary to share. The Germans have just taken the lead in a race that most of the world doesn't even know is happening. The Reichsluftfahrtministerium, the Reich Aviation Ministry, immediately sees the potential. They start issuing requirements for a jet fighter. Something fast. Something that can catch enemy bombers that conventional fighters struggle to intercept. Messerschmitt, the company behind the legendary Bf-109, wins the contract. The designer is Woldemar Voigt, working under Willy Messerschmitt. Their proposal is radical, a swept-wing jet fighter powered by 2 turbojets, armed with 30mm cannons, capable of speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. On paper, it's a masterpiece. In reality, it's going to be one of the most troubled development programs of the entire war. The engineering nightmare. Let me tell you what it was like to design a jet fighter in 1940 when nobody had ever done it before. First problem, engines. The Junkers Jumo 004 turbojet is supposed to power the Me 262. Except the 004 isn't ready. It's unreliable. It keeps exploding. The turbine blades can't handle the heat and stress. The mean time between failures is measured in hours, not hundreds of hours like a proper aircraft engine should achieve. So Messerschmitt has to design an airframe around engines that don't properly exist yet. Second problem, aerodynamics. Nobody really understands high-speed flight. The Me 262 keeps experiencing control problems at high speeds. The ailerons don't work properly. The aircraft wants to pitch and yaw unpredictably. Voigt's solution is brilliant: sweep the wings. 18 degrees of sweep, which delays the onset of compressibility effects and improves high-speed handling. The Me 262 becomes one of the first operational swept-wing aircraft in history. But that creates a third problem: the swept wings change the center of lift, messing up the aircraft's balance. The engines are too far back, making the aircraft tail-heavy. So Messerschmitt has to mount the engines forward, under the wings, in those distinctive pods that make the Me 262 instantly recognizable. Except now you have a fourth problem: the engines are so low that they can suck up debris from unpaved runways, destroying the compressor blades. So the Me 262 needs smooth, paved runways, which Germany is rapidly running out of as the Allies bomb them into rubble. It's a cascade of engineering challenges, each solution creating new problems. The first prototype flies on April 18, 1941. It's powered by a single piston engine because the jet engines aren't ready. The actual jet-powered flight doesn't happen until July 18, 1942. It's fast. Really fast. It's also unstable, difficult to control, and the engines flame out constantly. But it's fast enough to matter. Fast enough to catch any Allied bomber in the sky. The Luftwaffe is excited. Finally, a weapon that can turn the tide of the air war. And that's when Hitler gets involved. The Führer's idiocy. November 2, 1943. Adolf Hitler visits the Messerschmitt facilities to inspect the Me 262 program. Willy Messerschmitt himself gives the presentation, explaining the capabilities of this revolutionary fighter. Hitler watches the demonstrations. He sees the speed. He sees the potential. And then he asks one question that will doom the entire program. Can this aircraft carry bombs? You have to understand what's happening in Hitler's mind at this moment. The Allies are planning the invasion of Europe. Hitler is obsessed with the idea of blitzkrieg, of striking terror into the enemy with fast, devastating attacks. He sees the Me 262's speed and imagines it as a blitz bomber. A fast attack aircraft that can strike Allied positions and retreat before they can respond. Messerschmitt tries to explain that this is a terrible idea. The Me 262 is designed as a fighter. It has a slim fuselage optimized for speed and maneuverability, not bomb-carrying capacity. The swept wings create stability issues when carrying asymmetric loads. Hitler doesn't care. He issues a direct order: the Me 262 will be developed primarily as a fast bomber. Fighter variants may be produced, but the priority is the bomber version. This is one of the most catastrophically stupid decisions of the entire war. Here's why: Germany desperately needs fighters. The Allied combined bomber offensive is destroying German industry. American B-17s and B-24s are striking by day. British Lancasters and Halifaxes pound Germany by night. The Luftwaffe is being ground down through attrition. What Germany needs is a fighter that can intercept bombers at high altitude where conventional fighters struggle. The Me 262 is perfect for this role. Its speed means it can make slashing attacks through bomber formations. Its 4 30mm Mk108 cannons can destroy a heavy bomber with a single burst. Instead, Hitler wants to use it to carry 2 500-pound bombs. The development program immediately goes sideways. Engineers have to redesign sections of the aircraft to carry bombs. The bomb racks interfere with the landing gear. The added weight requires stronger landing gear, which adds more weight. The center of gravity shifts. Meanwhile, the Allies are bombing German factories. Resources that should go to Me 262 production are diverted to other projects. And the clock is ticking. The technical masterpiece. Let's talk about what made the Me 262 so revolutionary when it actually worked. The production variant, the Me 262A1, a Schwalbe, or Swallow, was unlike anything else in the sky. Sleek, shark-like fuselage. Swept wings spanning 40 feet 11 inches. 2 Junkers Jumo 004B turbojet engines mounted in pods under the wings, each producing 1,980 pounds of thrust. Top speed, 540 miles per hour. That's 100 miles per hour faster than the P-51 Mustang. Rate of climb, 3,900 feet per minute. Armament, 4 30mm Mk108 autocannons mounted in the nose, with 100 rounds per gun for the upper pair and 80 rounds per gun for the lower pair. These weren't rifle-caliber machine guns. These were cannons that fired high-explosive rounds the size of small bombs. One burst from all 4 guns delivered approximately 15 pounds of explosive in less than 2 seconds. For comparison, a P-51 Mustang with 650 caliber machine guns delivered about 3 pounds of projectile weight in the same time, and those were solid bullets, not explosive shells. When a Me-262 opened fire on a bomber, the results were devastating. It was, quite simply, the most advanced fighter aircraft in the world. Nothing the Allies had could match it in a straight fight. But it was also incredibly difficult to fly and maintain. The pilot's nightmare. Being a Me-262 pilot was like being given a Formula One racing car and told to drive it on dirt roads while people shoot at you. The engines had a mean time between failures of just 10 to 25 hours. For comparison, a good piston engine might run for 500 hours between overhauls. The turbine blades were made from substandard materials because Germany couldn't get enough high-temperature alloys. So the blades would crack, warp, and fail. The Me-262 was fast in the air but sluggish at low speeds. It needed long runways and had to maintain high approach speeds when landing. This made it vulnerable to Allied fighters who learned to patrol German airfields and attack the jets during takeoff and landing. The fuel consumption was terrible. The Me-262 could only stay airborne for about an hour before needing to land and refuel. And by the time the Me-262 entered service, most Luftwaffe pilots were inexperienced. The veteran pilots were mostly dead. The new pilots had minimal training because Germany was running out of fuel for training flights. So you had inexperienced pilots trying to fly an extremely unforgiving aircraft with unreliable engines while Allied fighters swarmed the skies. It's honestly amazing that the Me-262 achieved anything at all. Operational reality. The Me-262 finally enters operational service in July 1944. Not as a fighter. As a bomber. It's used in small numbers during the Normandy campaign, carrying 2 500-pound bombs. The missions are largely ineffective. The aircraft is too fast to aim accurately. The bomb load is too small to make a strategic difference. But some units do use it as intended, as a fighter. Commando Naoutny becomes the first dedicated Me-262 fighter unit in September 1944. They're based at Akmer and Hizipy, flying intercept missions against Allied bombers. The results are immediately impressive. Allied bomber crews report being attacked by aircraft moving at impossible speeds. The Me-262 pilots use slashing attacks, diving through formations at 500 miles per hour, firing their cannons, and then using their speed to escape before Allied escorts can react. Adolf Galland, one of Germany's top aces, flies the Me-262 and immediately recognizes its potential. He later writes that if Germany had focused on producing the Me-262 as a fighter from the beginning, the air war over Germany might have been very different. But by late 1944, it's too late. Germany is collapsing. The industrial base is being systematically destroyed. Even if the Me-262 could be produced in large numbers, which it can't, there's not enough fuel to fly them or experienced pilots to man them. By the end of the war, approximately 1,400 Me-262s have been produced. But fewer than 200 ever see combat. The rest are destroyed on the ground, abandoned due to lack of fuel, or captured before they can be deployed. The alternate history. This is where we ask the uncomfortable question, what if Hitler hadn't insisted on the bomber variant? What if Germany had focused exclusively on producing the Me-262 as a fighter from early 1943? The numbers are sobering. If production had started a year earlier and focused solely on fighters, Germany could potentially have fielded 500 to 800 operational Me-262s by mid-1944. The Allied daylight bombing campaign was already suffering heavy losses. Now imagine hundreds of Me-262s joining those battles. Fighters that can slash through formations at 500 miles per hour. That can't be caught by escort fighters. The loss rates for Allied bombers could have doubled. Tripled, even. At some point, the losses become unsustainable. This isn't wild speculation. This is what Allied planners were genuinely afraid of when intelligence reports about the Me-262 started arriving. But it didn't happen. Because Hitler wanted a fast bomber. Because the engines remained unreliable. Because Allied bombing destroyed production capacity. Because Germany ran out of experienced pilots and aviation fuel. The Me-262 was a revolutionary aircraft that arrived in a collapsing nation. A glimpse of the future deployed by an army of the past. The legacy. After the war, Allied intelligence teams swarm over German facilities, examining every Me-262 they can find. They ship complete aircraft back to the United States and Britain. They study every technical detail. The swept-wing design influences every jet aircraft that follows. The engine placement under the wings becomes standard. The Soviets capture Messerschmitt facilities and designers in their occupation zone. They force German engineers to help develop Soviet jet fighters. The MiG-15, which will terrorize American pilots in Korea just 5 years later, owes a direct debt to the Me-262 program. Within a decade, every major air force in the world is transitioning to jet fighters. The piston-engine fighter becomes obsolete almost overnight. And it all traces back to that sleek, deadly aircraft with the swept wings and pod engines. Final thoughts. I want to leave you with one image. It's April 1945. Berlin is surrounded. And at a cratered airfield outside the city, a handful of Me-262s sit waiting, sleek and deadly, representing the future of aviation. But there's no fuel to fly them. The experienced pilots are mostly dead. The runways are so damaged that takeoff would be suicide. So these incredible machines just sit there, waiting for a mission that will never come. Within days, Soviet tanks will roll over that airfield. The Me-262s will be captured or destroyed. That's the ultimate tragedy of the Me-262. Not that it failed, but that it succeeded too late to matter. It proved that jet fighters were the future. It scared the Allies into accelerating their own jet programs. But it couldn't save Germany. Because brilliant engineering can't compensate for strategic idiocy. Because technology alone doesn't win wars. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was the right aircraft at the wrong time, built by the wrong nation, for the wrong reasons. And yet, every time you see a modern fighter jet, with its swept wings, its pod engines, its focus on speed and firepower, you're seeing the legacy of those German engineers who gave the world a glimpse of the future in the dying days of the Third Reich. History is full of aircraft that should have changed everything, but didn't. Until next time, keep questioning the what-ifs.